In the meantime, for everyone to become present, we can do a little something. Just to
Yes, very.
yeah, place both your feet on the floor, firmly on the floor, and just really you don't even have to close your eyes, but just feel your feet. It's like, where are they? How are they touching? What are the points? It's like always use this when I get a little flustered and I get out of my body. I connect with my feet. Where are my feet? And how are they connecting? Because we really, the first messages we get through about being in a, yeah, kind of like a stressful mode or kind of out of our element is that we first feel it in our body. So if we can go back to our body and feel grounded and okay, here we are. Feel also where your body touches the chair or the stool, wherever you're sitting on. Just become aware of that. And keep breathing, of course. And Laura too. Keep breathing.
I'm breathing, baby. I'm breathing.
Okay. You got this. So how many of you feel very present right now?
Yes,
Yeah, I do.
I do. Thank you so much for bringing that in for us. All right, well, okay. We are here. Michelle, I'm going to add one more comment here with our information into Facebook, and then we will begin. Thank you so much, Barry, for bringing us all to get grounded and connected and just present with each other right now. And that's a good way to start off. All right. Okay, everybody. Well, welcome, welcome. Let's try this one more time. We're going to admit some more participants here, and we're going to just get going. So today we are starting our first in a 4-part series titled Creating Resilient Communities. And this really began around Urban Office's initiative in starting a mental well-being campaign. This campaign started in March and is running through April. My name is Alora Brown. I have a company called Alora Grace & Co. And I have partnered with Jenny Freeman, who is the owner of Urban Office, to really bring this cause to the forefront of everyone's attention. Since the pandemic, everything from children being out of schools to people losing their jobs to the uncertainty of what can we do, what can't we do, what are treatments available, it's caused an incredible amount of stress and fear out there. The uncertainty is of when can we go back to work, when can the kids go back to school. Life as we have known it before is definitely changing drastically. And although mental health, the statistics around mental health have gone through the roof in every demographic, from the young adults to the elderly, demographics in low income areas, of course, too, always struggle, and those have gone through the roof, through suicidal ideation, to stress, to anxiety, to severe chronic depression. And so, although this is a topic that a lot of people in our society haven't been comfortable about talking about before, I really see this whole event as a real blessing, because this is something that if we can cultivate skills around creating resilient mental well-being within ourselves, that truly is how we create resilient communities. And I believe, as well as many of the professionals you will see here today, and the ones coming on further panels and throughout the research that I've done around this topic, There are so many incredible evidence-based do-it-yourself type tools that can support positive mental health. If we were teaching our children this, we would have a more resilient, capable society and life. And so no matter what we see happening in the external, we have the ability to go inward and discover peace and find a way forward that is both healthy, compassionate, empathetic, and loving for ourselves and for those that we encounter. And so a big topic around today's discussion is identifying feelings. What are the feelings? Not being ashamed to talk about it. We want to get over that stigma, the languaging that we use both inwardly in our own minds and externally as we're engaging with others, and the importance of communication in terms of not just how we become self-responsible and proactive in communicating where we're at or how we communicate so others can relate back with us, but how do we truly listen? What are not just the words that we're noticing, but even the physical postures, the presence that others are presenting to us? So I'm going to take it around. This is going to be kind of an open discussion. Feel free to please use the chat in this. This is meant to be engaging. Let us know who you are, where you're from, maybe what you do for work, or what maybe a new direction in your life that you're choosing to go. Please feel free to put questions into the chat. We will open up for a live Q&A towards the end. And again, personally, I have always been one, I don't shy away from the things that really need to get talked about. And I'm having some technical difficulties. I had prepared some slides for this. So I want to give a disclaimer that if you feel you are experiencing mental health issues, please seek out a professional or a healthcare practitioner in your area to get the help that you need. And at the end, I'm going to try to get the suicide hotline prevention number up there. If you or someone you know are experiencing these types of thoughts, please seek out help. There's an incredible amount of resources. Jacob from the QPR Institute is going to go over what is QPR, and it's kind of like CPR, but for suicide prevention. This is not a full training. We will be providing the training as part of the mental well-being campaign, April 20th. And you can go to urbanofficeplace.com to get more information about that in the events section. And it will be up on our social media at Urban Office PDX. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Jacob, Barry, and Mara to introduce who they are, their companies, why they do what they do, and again, really a core value or core nugget of information that they are hoping to impart upon all of you today. So Mara, let's start with you, my dear.
Okay, thank you, Laura. I'm so grateful to be part of this panel and that you are naming the thing that we need to talk about, which is mental health and feelings. My name is Mara McLaughlin. I'm a speech language pathologist, and I have a business called IRL Social Skills. We bring a social skills curriculum from UCLA called Peers. It's the program for the education and enrichment of relational skills. It's an evidence-based curriculum that we share with families of motivated teens and adults who are autistic or have other neurodiversity. The reason why I do this work is because I spent 10 years in the school system and was very discouraged by the intervention that we were supposed to provide. I realized that what really was necessary was training of environments and building capacity within environments so that we all learn more about neurodiversity and building our skills, including the social skills of empathy and compassion.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mara. Barry, we're going to pass that on over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Alora, and thanks for everyone being here today. It's wonderful, and also people on the recording later. My name is Barry Crowning, and I am with the company Crowning Communications. And in our company, we empower introverts to be impactful leaders. And what that really means is that I coach introverts to get through some struggles that I actually personally have also experienced as an introvert. And I know exactly, I get introverts. That's part of why I'm doing this work. I love people to be, I love it when people are stepping into their power, their personal power, and from there use their strength. And that's not always happening with introverts. And also, I really like to educate the extroverts among us about how it is to work with introverts and how to draw introverts out and help them shine. So that's a little bit about me. I coach people one-on-one and train, do workshops with regards to communication, conflict management. I think that's the big part, all kinds of interpersonal skills related. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Barry. Okay, Jacob, welcome. Hello.
Hello, thank you. I'm Jacob Medling. I work with QPR Institute. They do suicide prevention training. Laura hinted at it. QPR parallels CPR. QPR stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. And yeah, we'll do like an overview of it when I'm up next. And yeah, I think that's all I have for now. Talk to you guys in a bit.
All right. So really, I brought the three of you together today because each aspect of your work is really based around the communication piece. And Mara, I'd love it if you would kind of start us off with, you've talked about a couple of things. I'd like you to share with us, what is neurodiversity? What is being a neurominority? And I guess if you're not a neurominority, what is that concept to everybody else out there? And how does that, when you understand what that is, how does that help you be able to empathize and relate to others in communicating with them? And Barry, again, and Jacob, you too, this is an open discussion. So I'll just kind of keep giving prompts and we'll go from there.
Great, thanks, Alora. So neurodiversity is based on the concept of biodiversity, and meaning that, we need diversity, and diversity is strength. If you liken it to, a field that just grows soybeans, right. Over time, that it's not going to work anymore. So, and there's actually a slide in the chat that looks at our different, that looks at the cultural language approach of two approaches to autism. Neurodiversity was really a grassroots effort to bring, started in the 1990s, to bring awareness to different brains and to start using a language that that moves from the negative medical model to more of the social model of disability and having a positive identity perspective, like, being proud of being autistic, being proud of being the neurodivergent. The neurominority is the people who have different brains, who are in the minority. I mean, the status quo, the majority is people who are, whose brains just function most like most other people. Right. Autism statistics include that there's 1 in 59 kids who are diagnosed with autism. And so, this is like this identification continues to increase. And we need to build our capacity for the neurodiversity and to take into consideration that how someone's behavior might be reflective of their different brain and how they're processing sensory information, and how they are processing auditory information. And yeah, so that's neurodiversity and the neurominority.
So I think a lot of what we're seeing nowadays in society, much to like you were saying about autism, I think over the decades, we've all, whether you know someone who is autistic or not, we have all heard about the increasing numbers of people being diagnosed somewhere on this spectrum. I think that a lot of adults out there functioning, thinking, this is just how I am, probably are somewhere a little bit on that spectrum and aren't sure. And I go back to, regardless of what a diagnosis is, or that there's a nice placard to identify something, it helps us, yes, give a point of reference for what we're dealing with, but more on a deeper level, we all, I think, need to develop and learn the skills to self-advocate for, when I speak, well, personally, I speak quite fast at times. And so I moderate that when I'm around others that maybe speak slower, or they are processing information in a different way. And these are skills that I've developed over the years. I call it being heart coherent, listening with the heart, feeling with the heart, communicating with the heart, leading with a sense of empathy, not just trying to process everything up here. And it allows me then to kind of create the space so that no matter where people are on that spectrum, they can feel comfortable expressing who they are, what they have to say, that everyone should be heard. And Barry, I think that kind of leads into a lot of around your work with even the introverts, right? As you were saying, in the workplace, maybe have a hard time moving up into those leadership roles because they don't know how to advocate for, these are really my superhuman skills. This is what these are my superpowers.
Introversion is a superpower, yes. And I think that's really the work that I like to do is with introverts, is to really help people embrace. And Mara already mentioned that a little bit, proud to be neurodivergent, right? It's proud to be an introvert. And I got to that conclusion about a few years ago myself. And since then, it's like being able to step into that, owning it. My language changed, my behaviors changed, my confidence went up because I was, I see people able to, when they do this, they are able to tap into that power that they have from their strengths, and they are able to leverage those strengths that we have as introverts. And yes, we become proud introverts, and we recognize that that's our superpower. And also learning to advocate for ourselves. I mean, that's similar to what Mara is saying, is why big reason why introverts are not seen as leaders or as someone, as a person that's really adding a significant contribution or giving a significant contribution, is because we're not speaking up. We're so quiet. We're doing all our work and we're doing really great. And in the meantime, nobody really notices what we're doing because we're not advocating for ourselves. We're not speaking up. We're not sharing enough of ourselves. Right. And well, Laura, you know me, so I'm still learning, So and it's great to be able to step into that place.
So then as this all relates to mental health and mental well-being, So you could be on the spectrum, you could just innately have a different set of learning skills and capabilities. But then when you parallel that with, stressful environment, so the workplace can become stressful. The schooling environment can be a stressful place because you don't know, so a lot of times you feel misheard, misunderstood, or people they don't understand with you. You want them to know who you are, but you don't know how to communicate that. Or how you communicate is much different than maybe that general public out there. And even then in a more, maybe you're not on that spectrum so much, but then when traumas start to happen, whether it's interpersonally, interrelationally, or in the greater society, if you haven't developed those internal communication skills, and that's, even like you had said yesterday, Barry, even the languaging, those little, I call it the little monkey brain, that negative self-talk that we go into. And then we start moving into that kind of conclave of being stressed. And so not having those more gentle internal communications, let alone then being able to express where we're at. And is this person even going to be able to understand me? And it can spiral down into this effect then where, like to the extent where, what Jacob does with QPR, where somebody might be in that, I am so alone. People do not understand me. Like, this is so difficult. This is so hard right now. I just can't go on. And so what would all of you, please jump in terms of noticing languaging that may be on the more negative spectrum, and how can we bring a more positive relation to that, both interpersonally, and then what can we share with others about how we evolve our listening to be more empathetic and compassionate without judgment. And I really want to emphasize, we have to start taking the judgment off of ourselves, who we are. There is nothing wrong with us. And I'm a real big advocate when you say, well, I'm depressed. Well, no, you are not depression. You may be feeling depressed right now. I'm stressed. Yes, absolutely. Even the strong among us, because of everything going on, have hit big stress points. But that is the stress. I am not the stress, right?
Yeah, Laura, I wanted to say something about that. So the way we talk to ourselves is often also the way we, talk to others, but we influence ourselves with the way we talk to ourselves. And a lot of people talk to themselves as in statements. I am depressed, or I am just a failure, or I'm a loser, or so those statements are harmful, and we can say that. But what we can help people with, and this is also looking at, how can we help people that talk that way to themselves? First of all, I've learned to check my statements that I make to myself. Would I say that to the people that I love deeply, like my children? I have children. So would I say this to my children or my best friend? No, heck no. Why would I say it to myself? So that was a really good first check-in for myself. Then what I also see is that questions are much more powerful than statements. So instead of asking ourselves, or instead of saying, like, why did I mess up this job? Why did I do this job so badly? We can ask more positive questions. Okay, what went well, and what can I do better next time?
How can I?
Yeah, how can I improve? And that has a completely different influence on how we are experiencing ourselves. And the same way we can do this for others as well. I mean, we influence ourselves with our own self-talk, but we also influence others with our words. And so if we can ask questions rather than use statements,
Right.
we are much further along with with positive influence.
Jacob, we talked about being able to be there without judgment and looking at maybe even modeling statements, but what do you see as some of that shifting from that negative mental spin into that more aware state and creating more self-awareness?
Sure. QPR, it's kind of jumping ahead in the process, but it's just kind of one of the aspects that I've learned that I can share here. And again, I'm not a trainer. This is just being around the program for so long. Actually, I work in IT. I'm not even like a marketing. So the part of it is when you're kind of in the persuasion phase, right? The P of QPR is to listen without judgment. And the most difficult part about that, when you're in a situation where you're dealing with someone, when you're communicating with someone who's experiencing a suicidal crisis, is that you have a lot of fear too. The adrenaline is high, stakes are high. So you have to, in that sense, kind of tame your own fear. And by doing so, you just let the other person speak. And you, as everyone's kind of already touched on, you actually listen, and you kind of, by listening, you also encourage them to talk and listen to themselves. A lot of time when you're communicating with someone who is distressed, and you're there, you have to remember you're there to help them, is to ask questions that keep them talking and keep them describing how they're feeling, so they can, again, listen to themselves and work it out in their own language, and understand how they're feeling better. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you. Mara, in terms of developing those interpersonal skills, and in your work, you talk a lot about not just noticing the feelings, but feeling where the feelings are. Would you kind of share a little bit more about that?
Yes, so it's important to develop what we call interoception skills, or mind-body connection skills. So how does love feel in the body? Like, do my hands get warm when I think about being in that space? Does my face get warm? Where do I feel it? When I feel afraid, do I feel this like tension that comes in my shoulders, in my solar plexus? When I feel, when I'm feeling sad, do I feel um, the do I feel cold? When I'm feeling afraid, do I feel the hairs go up on the backs of my arms? So just being acutely aware of the sensations arising in the body, because the body is always right here in the present moment. When we go to the past, we might tend to get into depression. When we go into the future, we might tend to towards anxiety. But if we can stay in the body, acutely aware of the sensations arising, then we're better able to navigate these different feeling states.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of like a really empowering tool moving forward, even from today's discussion, and going out and being a part of a community, or being a part of a group, or just being comfortable being alone with you, is developing the mindful skills. And it is when we want to see change out in the world, it truly does start inwardly, because when we start shifting our perspectives, our judgment, our self-talk towards us, as Barry, you hit on, we shift our presence out in our engagement with the world and with others around us. Noticing, and I think that was a really important aspect of, we can be worrying about the future, but it always goes a different direction. And I mean, personally in my life, I mean, I've had an exquisitely experiential life. There have been traumas that have tested every fiber of my being. And there have been times in my younger years where I am thinking about this interaction that needs to happen or something like that. And playing out all these different scenarios, which in this now moment is creating this stress, this fear, this anxiety, knowing I'm going to move forward. We're going to have to meet this thing head on, no matter what. And I feel like I could almost say like 9.9 times out of 10, it is never as bad as fear. Has a fantastic, powerful way of creating an illusory reality. It is a powerful form of imagination and not for the better. And so when we can start to learn the sensations in our physical bodies that keep us into this now moment, what is present, what is real? What is real? What can I touch right now? Mm-hmm. What can I taste right now? What do I see? Okay, in this moment, right here, right now, I choose peace. And it's not always a road or a space that can be easy to get to. And internally, you might not believe it. That's okay. You don't have to believe it, but you can start to tell yourself that. And it can shift that dire moment into the next moment, which gets a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. But yeah, you've got some really great charts. Like I said, on your feeling charts, I absolutely love, it's not just a bunch of emojis with like this and all these crazy things going on. It really is very, part of that communicating is, how do I put a word to this? How can I identify what I'm thinking? How can I identify what I'm feeling internally? And then again, how do I express that to somebody when I need to say, you know what, I need help. I need support. And it's okay to say, I don't know how to express what I'm feeling right now. Like, that's okay too. But even just taking that leap to open yourself up to receiving the support that you need can, even like a placebo effect, start to shift that current state that you're in. So I would implore people to go out and search for feeling charts. It's so empowering when we can go, yeah, that thing that looks like it's the color green, well, it's a hunter green, and because we can really help to narrow in the description. Barry, what do you got?
Yeah, I wanted to say something about when we are in a listening mode with another person that is venting and listening for feelings is a little bit of a skill, in the sense that a lot of people talk in terms of feelings like I feel like, or when people say I feel like I am being ignored, well, that is not a feeling. I mean, this is getting really into the nitty-gritty of the semantics, but it's not a feeling. First of all, ignored is about someone else's behavior. So, and I feel like, or I feel that, is always about a thought. So people are still in their brain. So if we want to help someone get to their feelings, we can talk about, okay, so when you feel like that, what are you really feeling? And often is sadness, or all those emotions, right? The feelings that we can have. When we express a true emotion, it sounds like I feel sad, I feel happy, right? Mm-hmm. So that came up to me, that I wanted to share that.
Oh, that's good clarification, truly. Do you want to, Barry, will you go a little bit more into talking about how languaging what you're experiencing, and then finding the right way to express what you're experiencing.
Well, there is something about so
Thank you, Mara.
for us becoming aware when we want to support other people who are going through a hard time, becoming aware that we have our own experiences internally, and we experience the world all in a different way. I think that's a lot of us are familiar with that. The way we express it, the way we language our experience is very different. So that's where we can make a connection. We all speak a foreign language.
8 billion of us.
Because we all see the world in a different way. So when we can connect with another person using their language pattern, their language, their metaphors, go on their metaphors, repeating words that we hear them say, then that's a shortcut to a connection with another human being. Because then you start speaking their language, and they feel like, oh, she gets me.
Yeah.
And then people feel really seen and heard.
Yeah.
So becoming aware of different languaging patterns. I mean, this is more getting into like neuro-linguistic programming, but being aware of certain language patterns is very valuable when we try to connect with another human being at a heart level.
Perfect. Thank you, Barry. Jacob, I would love you to talk to us about the QPR Institute. For those of you who aren't familiar with the QPR Institute, and Jacob's going to go into a bit more detail, who's the founder, why it came into being, but they have gone into school districts across the country. Australia, what was the other country, Jacob?
China, India.
And India, they're moving into India. And I am so grateful that there is an organization like this out here in the world serving this critical need. Suicidal ideation, again, the statistics around suicide, especially in this past year, especially in young people to the early 20s and mid 30s, has I think it's 1 in 4 have gotten suicidal thoughts now. So one, I really want to empower a sense of compassion and empathy that none of us are alone in this. There may be 8 billion realities walking around out there and 8 billion ways of feeling and expressing. But we are all human beings who are here to be together, to recognize that there's more in common with each other than there is not. And suffering doesn't have to be alone. And sometimes in sharing where you're at and what you're going through, finding that others can understand that can help relieve the suffering and the unnecessary anxiety. So anyways, Jacob, please share with us about the QPR Institute, where you guys are, what you do, the states that you've totally covered, what's happening for you here in Oregon, and what is the process, and maybe kind of model a few of those things.
Thanks. Yeah, QPR Institute is a question, persuade, refer, similar to CPR, again, kind of bang that drum. So it was started by Paul Quinnett. He was the head of psychology at University of Washington for a long time. And while he was at University of Washington, there was a program in Seattle to train a quarter of the population in CPR. If you have a heart attack in anywhere in the United States, your chance of survival is 10%. If you have a heart attack in Seattle, because a quarter of the population is trained in CPR, your chance of survival is up to 50%. So QPR was, again, going to try to use that model to the goal being a zero suicide. I don't know if it's policy. Anyway, they call it zero suicide policies now. You're seeing them roll out in many more states. So kind of as far as the school schools being targeted as a place to proliferate QPR. There was a study in Tennessee, the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network put together, where they trained the entire, they had a secured grant funding to train the entire state in QPR. And let's see here. After the state mandated training, 42% of the participants, this was in 2017, 42% of the participants identified at least one risk who was at youth after the training and then intervened. Again, to kind of bring it back around to the CPR parallel, it's been identified that when someone is in a suicide crisis, it is a temporary state that can last from hours to around 2 weeks. And then if they do make it through the crisis, their chance after intervention without an attempt, their chance of experiencing a crisis again is extremely low. So the process that QPR uses is an OODA, observation, orientation, direction, action approach. And again, that is the question, persuade, refer. So to talk a little bit about the process, the question part is to, well, the first part is identification. And this is something, so again, I'm not a trainer, I'm not an instructor. We are having a training on the 20th through Urban Office, and I'm sure we'll send a link out. And we have a few times if you're on the emails chain. And then, okay, so again, so I'm not a trainer, but I've taken the training a bunch of times. And what you actually end up noticing is a lot of these things, and I'll even speak from my own experiences as personal, it's not part of the training or anything. But
that's great.
Before I'd see things that I'd otherwise, my wife's a nurse, so we always use the term attention seeking. We'd see these kind of attention seeking behavior. And then after taking QPR training, sometimes I'll actually identify that as, oh, this is a real cry for help. Maybe I should talk to this person. And that's something you actually take on, you feel responsible for when you see it. And that is a side effect of QPR training. So that kind of 6 month, 42% will find an intervention point is, I can speak to that as true to life. So first you need to identify through some verbal cues, direct verbal cues include, bluntly, things like someone saying, I've decided to kill myself, or something more indirect, like take this cherished possession, I won't be needing it. Behavioral cues often include stocking firearms, pills, the like. There's lots more that goes into, kind of removing the means, which is obviously important in the real training. But for now, I'm going to kind of move on to the actual questioning part, which is asking the question, which is extremely important. And that is, again, you've identified a crisis, and it's your responsibility. And speaking from personal experiences, you do feel responsible enough that at that time you just kind of have to drop what you're doing, and you need to take responsibility of the situation and responsibility for the situation. And you need to ask the person directly, are you thinking of killing yourself? And there are some other, more nuanced ways, like, are you thinking about suicide? But the best way that we try to tell people to do is just be direct. The person is, like I said, they're signaling for a reason. They do want to talk about it because they don't know if they're misunderstood, and they don't really know how to think about it. So they're signaling that they need to process that. So again, that's when we get to the persuade part. You ask them, the question that I prefer is, what problems would suicide solve? So by asking what problems would suicide solve, then they start listing the reasons. And again, they'll start hearing themselves and listen to themselves think. And then also on top of that, you're kind of buying time, and you're forming a relationship with the person to then eventually refer, which is the third step. And that is, we recommend you go with the person. Again, you are now responsible. You go with the person, and you take them directly to someone that can help. Obviously, best is a trained psychiatrist, or but a counselor or someone who does have references to ways that can help, or even in some cases we'll say like a nurse, a rabbi, a minister, someone who you trust that can help and has the resources, because it is admittedly difficult to help. But again, having gone through the situation where I've responded, it kind of comes during the identification phase. Is you yourself will just start Googling, okay, how do I get this person help, and then
Right.
it just kind of goes more naturally once you've been trained into what you can do in the moment. So finally, after you referred, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Obviously you want to keep a relationship with the person and make sure that they follow through with their help. I did forget to touch on one of the points that Alora asked about, so I'm going to touch on that now. We do have, so we started with Tennessee, and after Tennessee's results, there have been 0 suicide policies for New York, Colorado, Arizona, California, Hawaii, and Oregon. And but those partnerships have been in the last 2 years. So they don't have any results published yet.
That's, well, one, it's encouraging to know that in 2 years you have made it across so many states. That's very hopeful, and I do, however we can help keep spreading the awareness of what you guys are doing. I think Jenny dropped the link to the website about the event coming up. We will continue to put that information, as well as Mara and Barry, you shared information. I'm sorry, I couldn't get my slides up. But that will all go out into our social media on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram as well, because these are such powerful tools that do take some time and they do take exploration and developing into. But Jacob, really quickly though, on a more personal level for you, you struck on something that I think beyond what the format of QPR is, was your own, because again, this goes back out to having empathy in society as we engage with others. We see people and we want to assume maybe they're just attention seeking. Maybe they're just being a little dramatic. But when you take the time to learn about these things, now you said you and your wife is a nurse. I'm correct in that, right?
That's where I got the term attention seeking. That's a weirdly professional term that they use in the hospital. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know how I feel about that one, but good. All right. And that's, yeah, Mara, you and I will talk more about that too, that there are decades, if not centuries old, societal type programming that really is detrimental to the overall well-being of all of humanity, but especially signaling out those who might not be that might be that more neuro minority. And we see that in the institutional healthcare systems, in the education systems, in a lot of the systems. So we are embracing this beautiful opportunity that I think this past year has created, so that we can expand consciousness, raise more awareness, and learn to start being connected with each other. And even watching how schooling and research is even shifting, the labeling of things is even starting to shift, because even in that aspect, that's what has informed and created the negative environment out in society, where even talking about these things was not okay. So, but I just wanted to go back, Jacob, and I went off there on a tangent. I apologize about how going through the QPR training now, as you're seeing people walking down the street, it actually is bringing to your awareness a deeper sense of ability to have compassion and maybe empathy. Am I right on that? And not so quick to judge it one way, but going, oh, you know what, this person could use some more help.
Yeah, I think to your point that the tangential point, again, when you see someone and you maybe previously were making judgments on, or anyway, or at least for me, right? You'd see these people who again, we're trying to draw attention. You have to realize that is a it's for a reason, and maybe rather like you said, rather than judge, try to understand, right? Try to ask questions, try to figure out why, instead of, right, there's a reason, there's always a reason. And
Yes, we
whether the
can name the
causes,
what, but what about the why? You know, we can identify the what, but then we have to ask that next question, the why.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I think that's part of the difference, at least it made for me, as someone who maybe hadn't thought deeply about that before, was to figure out why, or at least be okay with asking why.
yeah, and I heard a really good question. Also, is just ask what happened today. This is draw people out that way, and it's like, yeah.
All right, you guys, we are coming up on our time. We've got about 6 minutes left. So if any of the participants would like to ask a question or give feedback, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and just open it up for general discussion, or if it's for one of the guest presenters individually, just let us know. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask. And yeah, are we good? Yeah, okay. All right, well, last thoughts, best thoughts, everybody. I just really want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today, taking this time out of your lunch hour or wherever you are. Again, I apologize about the technical difficulties. We will be posting this and uploading it later. We did have a lot of response and people who just couldn't attend today. But really submit to you as you go back out in your day and out into the world to be more compassionate towards yourself, be more compassionate towards others. Leading in the world in a different way really does start with yourself. So, taking the judgment away from you and where you're at, and really showing more self-love, giving your space, yourself the opportunity to just ask, how can I? Or I can choose this in this moment. What would that be? Mara, Barry, Jacob, any last final thoughts if we can send people off with just a good little nugget?
Yeah, I think what is really important to realize is that empathy is about the other person. And often when we are there to support another person, we make it about us. Like, oh yeah, I know what you're going through. No, you don't. So empathy is about acknowledging the other person and making a connection that way. So that's really important difference in relating to someone.
Awesome.
Thank you for that, Barry. I would say, like a final nugget, is friendship is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone gets to be friends. You don't get to be friends with everyone, and not everyone gets to be friends with you. You got to get in where you fit in. And, we know that based on the research that friendship can provide a buffer of protection from the mental illnesses that result from social isolation, such as anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff, Mara. Thank you. And Jacob, we've got the live training coming up. And I am putting out, like I said, I think if they didn't get dropped into the chat, onto the social media there's a great PDF for QPR. There's there's a couple checklists. We put in the Urban Office Place website for the events. You can register to come and do this training. I think that they are starting to roll it out in most school districts, am I correct, to the parents and teachers in Oregon at the moment?
All teachers, some parents.
All teachers, some parents. And then of course you are welcome to seek out this training. They do train and license other practitioners and professionals to give this training. Yep, and Barry as well, I think we've shared your information out on social so that if people want to engage and really see how how these are real life applications of how people have created their careers around supporting mental well-being through these beautiful niches around interpersonal growth and supporting our youth to our young adults to the career professionals. A big thing that I think we're going to start to see now are even mental well-being policies incorporated into businesses and organizations. This has been such a big effect that HR departments are really taking this on. So if your place of business doesn't have one already, I really encourage you to go to HR and go, can we get this conversation started? Because mental well-being and mental health is critical to a resilient society, resilient communities, and for all of us building forward in a more positive future. So that is all I'm going to say about that. Please keep following Urban Office PBX on social as we keep releasing more information from our mental well-being campaign. Share it with all of those you know. And yeah.
Real quick. I mute myself there. Kirsten was asking if there's going to be a summary of takeaway points sent out.
Oh, yep. Hold on. Let me make. Can you guys hear me? Yes. I have jotted down. We had kind of an outline for today's meeting, and I pulled out some very specific kind of key statements and topics. Thank you very much. That's a great question, Kristen. That's exactly what we're going to be doing this afternoon. Again, on our LinkedIn page and on our Facebook page, you're going to see an overview of some of those important key takeaways. So, and again, the contact information for Mara, Barry, and Jacob, well, with QPR Institute, so you can explore some of those takeaways further. Okay, and that is that on 1 o'clock on the dot. We did it. Excellent. Well, thank you all. Be well, be happy. It's sunny, hopefully, wherever you are. Go make it a great day because that choice is yours. So thank you, thank you, thank you.